So Trent, step one for a special reconnaissance person. Number one, you got to look good. Number two, you have to not suck. So those are steps 1 and step 2. 1, look good. 2, don't suck. But after you get those knocked out, you're going to go talk to a special operations recruiter. How does the process look from the very start?
Same way it does for pararescue, combat control, and TAC-P. You go to the recruiter and figure out how to get yourself into the Air Force, which is, I think it's easy for us to forget how big of a hurdle that is, just to get into the Air Force, especially these days, and then also to be qualified for these AFSCs. So, I mean, that's what you need to focus on first thing. You know, like get in there, make sure you're physically and medically qualified, and then really start to look at your physical fitness, you know, as you look towards the IFT, so that you can be competitive for the job that you actually want and not the job that, you know, someone else wants to give you.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to back it all the way up. So in order to find a recruiter, go to aspectwar.com and use the find a recruiter function. We've talked about it a million times, and we talked about how long you should wait to hear back from a recruiter. Check the other podcasts. We'll throw some cards in there of recruiters, like no kidding, talking about this and letting you know, like, you're not the only person in the world. They have 100 other candidates, blah, blah, blah. So go to aspectwar.com, or airforce.com, and find the find a recruiter tab. You can put one in by zip code, and you can actually get to a special operations recruiter. The difference between a special operations recruiter and normal Air Force recruiter, they both know the same stuff. It's just special operations recruiters are a little bit more sensitive to the special warfare career fields. You're going to go into what Trent described as the SWO-V program, Special Warfare Operator Enlistment Vector Program. So Trent, speaking specifically to SR, when you go into special warfare, is the recruiter going to tell you, okay, 100%, you have a guaranteed contract, you're going in for SR?
No, and this is, even if I take a step back, just like everything else, having some education before you walk into a situation where you're going to start asking questions is going to be, you know, very, very important, so that you can ask the correct questions and get the correct data. If you walk into your recruiter and you're like, hey, I'm interested in being something like, you know, a Navy SEAL or something, then you're going to get responses that are very, very vague, and it's not going to give you the data that you want to get. You know, like they're going to be like, oh, well, these guys are kind of like the same thing, but you started out the process, the questions in a not very precise way. So you're going to get not very precise answers. So then once you get into the pipeline, and you should understand this going in, it is an open enlistment for special warfare. And everybody's always like, well, how do I get the job that I want? It's just like everything else in this community. It's based on your performance. So TAC-P, pararescue, SR, CCT, they all come in open. The TAC-Ps get picked out of the SWIC course, the Special Warfare Candidate course, a little bit earlier to go on their vector, because their pipeline's a little bit different, and the rest of us go on to be assessed and selected. I know I jumped ahead, and Aaron's giving me the look like, dude, we're baby birding this, and stop jumping ahead.
Yeah. I even said, like, this is meant to be the SR deep dive to end SR deep dives. Like, this is supposed to be the one.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
It's never going to end.
No, we got it. So when Trent says you're going in open, it's not like you're going in open general. You're not just going, okay, I want to be in the Air Force. You're going those 4 career fields that we talked about, TAC-P, Special Reconnaissance, Pararescue, Combat Control. They're all in the same bucket. It's like going in people hate when we compare ourselves to the other services, but when you go into the Army, there used to be a thing called the 18 X-ray program, where you didn't know what you wanted to do. You didn't know if you wanted to be a medical sergeant or a weapons sergeant or an engineer or the other shutouts of the 18 series, but you know you wanted to be an Army Special Forces Green Beret. This is like that, but better, because we're in the Air Force. So
it really
you're going in, you're putting your name up. You're like, I want to be a special operator in the Air Force, and you're going to go into the SWO-V program. So Special Warfare Operator Enlistment Vector. They have their own acceptance standards. Trent, what's the ASVAB score?
50. It's 50. 49, 50 or 49.
It's if you score a 50, you're in. If you score a 49, you're out. Yeah.
Yeah. Score 50, kids.
Yeah. There you go. So you score a 50.
Or score way higher than a 50. Just throwing it out there.
That would be better. I'm not saying you can't make it with a 50. I'm just saying it's probably going to be tough. So you go in, and some of those physical requirements, we had a whole episode. I will mark it here. Oh, look, there's a little mark button. Bam. I'm going to mark this right here. Here.
How did you do that? How did you?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I did it. So we're going to mark to the IFT, CFT, and OFT fitness test. You're going to need an initial fitness test. for you to go in. I'm going to pull it up right now. Trent is going to talk in general about what the the Air Force Special Warfare IFT is. So Trent, just describe it in general, and then I'll pull up the actual numbers that they have to hit in order to be qualified.
Well, generally speaking, it's the easiest physical test you're going to take in your career if you make it. And I know that's way too general. You got a 1.5 mile run. You got your cals or your, sorry, we'll start with cals. Pull-ups, and then sit-ups, push-ups, 1.5 mile run, 2 25-meter underwaters, and then a 500-meter swim.
That's true. So I've got it right in front of me, the latest things right now to qualify for PJ, CCT, TAC-P, and SR are as follows. You got to do pull-ups, and these are all on a time limit. And we've talked about it in the IFT, CFT episode, but we'll go over it here briefly. You have to do pull-ups. You get a 2-minute break. You need a minimum of 8. You got to do 50 sit-ups. Or I'm sorry, then you move on to your sit-ups. You need 50 sit-ups at a minimum after the pull-ups. Then we go to the push-ups. You need a minimum of 40. Ladies and gentlemen, these numbers are not high for a reason. This is your entry just to get into the program. After a 10-minute rest period, after your push-ups, you're going to move into your 1.5 mile run, which Trent mentioned. That's going to be a 10:20. So a minimum of 10:20 for people out there that don't want to do math. That's just under a 7-minute pace. So if a 7-minute pace would be 10:30 for a 1.5 miles, and that math checks. I had to do it before we came on here, but it does. So you have to be under 10:20. You get a 30-minute rest, and then you have to do your underwaters. So your underwaters need to be on a 3-minute rest period. So you'll have a 30-minute break to get into the pool, and then a 25-meter underwater. You'll have a 3-minute break, and then another 25-meter underwater, and then you go into the 500-meter swim. That's in 15 minutes or less. Okay. So assuming that you've done everything that you're supposed to physically, you're qualified, you don't have any felonies on your record, you don't have any serious drug abuses, you don't have any surgeries, you don't have any weird medical diagnoses. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, and maybe we'll put another little mark in here to get you to one of the FAQ episodes. But as long as all those things are clear and the IFT is good, you are now going to enter in to the development program. And let me lay this out for you. Again, you do not have a job yet. You may think you want to be a special reconnaissance airman. You know that that's the only thing that you're going to want to do. You're going to come home with your shield or on it. You're going to burn every boat behind you. Who's going to carry the goats? That person is you, my guy. So you know that you're going to do it, but you still don't have a job. Okay. So you're going to enter into the development program as a hopeful SR candidate, but you don't have a guaranteed contract. So people get all up in arms on this. We're like, wow, they're not giving me a contract. No, they totally are, but it's on you to perform. So Trent, talk a little bit about the development program and what goes on there.
I mean, it's exactly what you think. You're going to get not only the physical development through very focused training iterations with your developer, but your developers out there are also there to mentor you, to tell you about their experiences in the community and people that they've met and things that they've seen, to get you in the right mindset. The last one I was at was really pretty awesome. The development session was good, but then the developer was like, "Hey guys, you're all here. I gotta go, but it doesn't look like you all have a lot to do. Maybe knock out another workout together. Maybe talk to each other. Maybe set up another thing where I can't be everywhere at once." And just getting you into that mindset of lifestyle versus hobbyist when it comes to these types of things, and really putting yourself out there and working hard and all that other stuff. So that's what you're going to do. You have to go through a few development sessions before they'll sign off on you. And not every development session is just an IFT. They're going to try to get you in the water. And obviously this is like a nationwide program, right? And nationwide and beyond. And so getting the correct resources and getting pools and everything, I know it's challenging in different parts of the country. But they're doing their best. And we spend a lot of money on this as a force to make sure that the candidates or the people out there that are want to be candidates have access to the resources that the rest of us didn't, like that. Who knows how many folks in the middle of Iowa never even heard of us, never had the opportunity, never had the resources. There's no swimming pools or whatever. It's like, that's what this is for is if you're interested, we're going to bring the resources to you a little bit, which, bothers some of us older guys, just a little bit.
Of course. How dare you guys get something I didn't get? But
to give you the best possible chance to make it, right? Like they're going to lead you to water, but you got to drink it. Not literally. Don't be drinking the water on your 25-meter underwater. It's not recommended.
That's not going to work, right? So the greatest things, Peaches and I had the distinct pleasure of going to a couple of these development sessions too. We hit one over in Dayton, Ohio. it was awesome. And it was awesome exactly for the reasons that you said, Trent. It's because you have, maybe they're not all the time, so not every single developer out there was a prior AF Spec War Airman, but what they get is Rangers, Army Green Berets, other special forces from other branches, other people that have done hard assessment selections in the military, and then they're trained and sensitized to Air Force special warfare. So they're going to give you the experience that they have to get you where you need to be. And the other part of it that I wanted to hit too is, you're going to start establishing that community. You're going to start in that development program, just like Trent said. You're going to meet friends. You're going to meet training partners. You're going to meet people that you didn't know that become friends, become training partners. And this is a new one, Trent. Get ready. I'm going to mark this clip right here. So before you can be a subject matter expert, you have to be a subject matter enthusiast. You have to really care about what it is that you're doing, because as I've always said, and Trent has never said this, excellence is a habit. But you have to establish that habit somewhere, and you got to start making those moves towards your goal. And the development program is where you're really going to start doing that in earnest. Because I bet the first couple development sections you go to, you may think you're in good shape. You may think you're ready to go. You may have all of the information in the world, and you've listened to all of our podcasts, and you know all of the requirements. When the rubber meets the road, it's a little bit different. And that development program from T3I is where you're going to start feeling that difference. And oh, by the way, then you're going to get that mentorship from somebody that's been there and done that. And that's super duper valuable. And we saw that the question and answer section and the mentorship section was longer than the physical portion of the development session I went to, way longer, because just, dudes and gals being bros and dudes sitting around talking later, that part was more valuable than any of the push-ups that we did.
Well, because as a developer, I might only have you for like an hour and a half to 3 hours per month, whatever. But
right.
You have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? Like that's where it matters. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. And if you're serious about it, you'll figure that out, and you'll make the most of those development sessions. Speaking specifically about development, there are a minimum number, like you have to get signed off on your developer. He or she is going to give you that blessing to go. Something they always ask, Trent, I'll ask you directly. Okay, when am I ready to go? What magic numbers do I need to hit to where I'm actually ready to get into the Air Force?
It's a very personal question for everybody.
It is a very personal question. And I like it too, because nobody agrees. If you ask 5 of us this question, you'll get 40 different opinions, which is cool.
Well, it's like everything else. So the more data you have, the harder it is to answer this question. We know people that with the correct mindset will hit the bare minimums and be on that growth trajectory and enter the pipeline. And this is unusual, just so you all know, and just grind and hit minimums for the entire pipeline, and then get on team and actually be really good at what they're doing. But the amount of willpower expended for that person to get through the pipeline is ridiculance. Like those people are crazy. Yeah.
100%. How do you live your life? It's like, the meme of Hillary Clinton where she walks into the apartment. She's like, oh my God, how do you live like this? And it's just like a normal apartment. How do you live just making the mins? That's a crazy thing.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy. You're just always riding the lightning, baby. Always on that red line.
I'm definitely more like the other person that is like, I'm too lazy to have to work hard at every PT test that I go to. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather put in the work every day.
What a ridiculously, what a hard statement to try to unpack. So what you just said was you're too lazy to have to try your hardest at a PT test. So you're going to try hard in order to be lazy.
Yeah. But if I do just regular workouts on a regular basis, then when it comes time for the PT test, it's not that hard as long as I'm consistent with everything. Right. And then they're like, oh my goodness, you have to go out here and run in a 9 or whatever and do these things. I would rather not, I don't know. And also I like the cushion, right? I don't want to be I have to max myself out to hit the minimums today. It's I would like to know that I can go out there and run a 60% and pass. Right. It's comfortable for me.
100%. We've talked about it a billion times at this point, billions and billions of times. We talked about it a bunch of times, but it gives you the bandwidth to be okay. The further away you are from that red line, the further you are away from those minimums, the better you're going to be. So as far as when you're ready to go in and when you're going to be ready for the pipeline, hey, that's going to be on you. You can go in doing the minimums if you want, or you could wait another 2 years and you could go in doing graduation standards of the SR pipeline, whatever those, whatever numbers you attach to that. Really, it's going to be on you. It's just how long do you want to wait and how comfortable do you want to be? There are some indicators that we figured out through data analysis. Shout out to everybody that's actually doing the right thing down at A&S and getting these numbers. Trent, there are a couple different factors that lead directly to success at A&S. What have we found out, even before you go in, what have we found out that will lead to bigger rates of success at A&S?
Better run times.
Better run times, lower run times. 10:20 is the bare minimum. If you're running a 9:30, right? Like let's say that you are just an absolute physical stud, and I put the physical stud kind of marker at like 8:45. That is a fast as crap mile and a half, right? Like I would have to train for months. I don't even know if I could do it. Like maybe my dumb lizard brain right now is like, oh, well, maybe I'll try to get down to that. And I'll see how long it takes. And then I remembered how bad I hate running and how much I, say things in the morning when I don't mean them.
I believe in you.
Thanks. Running, stop. Anyway. So, but if you're running an 8:45, that is fast as crap, right? Like that is physical specimen zone. If you're running that person that runs an 8:45, they can slow down and run a 9:15. They can slow down and give themselves a break by 30 seconds and still be a minute ahead of time. That person is not going to have a lot of problems. Exactly what Trent was talking about. Those lower run times really do translate to higher rates of success. And it's not because the course favors faster runners. That's not the point. That point is that leads to a cardiorespiratory and physical fitness level. Those things correlate to a fitness level that is more likely to graduate at A&S. So those lower run times, we're not saying focus only on your run. We're saying when your run is at a great time where you're well ahead of the standard and your cows are well ahead of the standard, you're going to have an easier time getting through. Again, if you're right at those minimums and you have to redline just to make the 10:20 timeline, that ain't going to work in week 3, week 4, further on. Like it's just not going to.
No. And I always recommend people go check out Taylor Starch, right? Because they're like, well, if I'm a runner, there's this misconception that if you're a runner, you also can't lift things, right? And first of all, there's a dude that, what did he do? Squat 500 pounds in the same day, ran a sub 5-minute mile on team out there.
We're going to have him on the podcast. He's training right now at the Olympic Training Center for skeleton because now he's literally an Olympic level athlete. He's a combat controller named Matt Beach. Matt squatted 500 pounds and ran a sub 5 mile on the same day. Yeah.
And I mean, he's a big guy. And then you go look at Taylor Starch, but like you look at Taylor Starch and you're like, look at the weights that he moves around too. And he's not a big guy, but he can run forever. So like, don't get caught up in like these body types or these misconceptions that, runners are runners. And just because you've seen marathon runners, like that's not what we're talking about. Right. And lifters are lifters. Like you need to be well-rounded. So having that huge aerobic baseline, also being able to carry some weight. Like I can't imagine that doing more farmers carries are going to hurt you for your grip strength and also carrying weight around. Like, cause that's a huge part of what we do. So, just don't get caught up in any of the nonsense and all the data from the 80s that was 180 degrees off from what reality actually is.
100%. There's some other factors that help with A&S. Trent, can you come up with another factor that leads to success at A&S?
Yeah, and I was going to talk about this a little bit earlier. When you first get into your dev pool is your ego and teamwork and all this other stuff that you're going to have to confront. So there's a few things, right? Like you're a composite of the 5 people you spend the most time around, right? So when you get into that dev pool and you start making that community, you may either have to check your ego because you're not as good as you thought you were, and you're going to have to make friends with people that are better than you, and that might be a new experience for you. Or you might come in and be like the number one person, like throughout your entire dev experience. And you're going to have to learn how to learn from the people below you or not below you, but like in that environment that you're outperforming.
It's okay to say below you. Hierarchies are a thing, Trent, and there is somebody that is the best. And it's okay to say that you are better than other people. It's not okay to be an elitist.
Yeah, but I'm smarter than that guy. So just kidding. Fair. You know what I mean?
That guy was me. I'm the one who said it. So,
but yeah, like learn how to get along with your team, learn how to help people out and give advice without coming across a certain way, and how to make your team better, right? And those are all skill sets that you need to develop before you get to A&S, because you can't go to A&S and be like, all of a sudden, I'm going to learn how to be a good teammate. I'm going to turn it on. Because you're not going to have the energy to be that person in front of the cadre, and then to also be that person when you go back to your hooch at night, surrounded by these people that you haven't developed relationships with.
Yeah, that's true. We used to say that your reputation started day one of INDOC. We used to tell people all the time, there's going to be no light bulb that comes on when you get your beret. At the end of this pipeline, there's not going to be a magic scroll that you're given that the instructors will be like, here you go. And you're like, oh, I'm a good dude. My reputation starts now. The only thing different about that statement is now we back it up. Now we're putting eyes on you a year, sometimes a year and a half before you get in the Air Force. And those people that you're in development with, those are going to be your peers throughout your entire career. You're going to know those people. If you both stay in for 20 years, if you both make it through your pipelines, you're going to know those people and work with those people for the next 2 decades of your life. So dumb stuff that you do, okay, we all have dumb stories about our friends, but they're going to know if you're a good person or not. And you can't just turn it on. You have to start working on yourself there.